If you've never been homeless, let me translate. Hunger is loud, but a child's cry is louder. That's how I met the man everyone else calls a monster. The bridge above us leaked like it had given up. Every few seconds, a cold droplet found the exact spot on my neck that wasn't covered by my coat. I stopped flinching after the 10th one. Beside me, Mara slept with her cheek pressed against my shoulder, the rhythm of her breathing the only proof that I still had something worth holding on to. We'd been living like this for months, between shelters, under overpasses, behind charity kitchens that ran out of soup by noon. People say you get used to it. You don't. You just learn to pretend the concrete is a mattress and the wind is music. A flattened cardboard box separated us from the wet ground, half soaked already. My stomach growled loud enough to echo off the pillars, and I pressed my hand against it as if that could quiet it down. Across the street, a convenience store sign flickered, "Open 24 hours." I'd walked in earlier, hoping for a job, left with a half-hearted smile and an expired sandwich. The cashier gave me the kind of look that measured whether I'd steal or beg. I did neither. Pride doesn't feed you, but it keeps a pulse in your chest. Mara stirred, her tiny fingers clutching my sleeve. "Mommy, it's raining inside again." "I know, baby. Go back to sleep. The rain just likes us too much." She giggled in that half-dreaming way only kids can, then drifted off again. I looked up at the sky through the cracks between concrete ribs. "If you're listening," I whispered to whatever God cared to hear, "I could really use a miracle that doesn't come with paperwork." A siren wailed in the distance. Ambulance, probably. Docks never slept. Trucks moved crates, drunks yelled at ghosts, and the sea kept coughing up secrets. I pulled Mara closer, ready to chase another hour of uneasy rest. Then the night screamed. Tires squealed somewhere up the incline. Headlights cut through the rain like blades. A car swerved, fish-tailed, and slammed into the guardrail with the sound of tearing metal. It flipped once, twice, and came to rest sideways at the mouth of the dock road. Silence. Then, a small cry. Not a man's, not a woman's, a child's. I didn't think. "Mara, stay here!" I yelled, already running. Rain blurred everything. My shoes slipped on the oil-slick pavement as I scrambled toward the wreck. The front of the car was crushed, steam hissing from under the hood. Through the shattered side window, I saw her, a little girl trapped in a booster seat, blood trickling from her temple, her eyes wide and wild. "Hey, sweetheart, it's okay," I said, voice shaking. My fingers found the buckle. Stuck. I yanked, metal biting my skin. Smoke filled my throat, bitter and hot. Somewhere behind me, someone shouted for help, but no one came closer. Come on, come on!" I pulled harder. The latch snapped, and I dragged her out just as the car's engine flared into flame. The explosion knocked me backward. For a second, all I could see was orange and rain. She was crying, clutching at my neck. "It's okay. I've got you," I whispered. "You're safe. You're safe." Headlights appeared, big ones, too many at once. 3 black SUVs barreled through the downpour, stopping in a perfect line across the road. Doors opened simultaneously. Men stepped out, tall, dark coats, the kind that didn't belong to paramedics or police. One of them shouted into a radio, "Found her! We've got Isabella!" Another knelt beside the child in my arms, checking her pulse with gloved hands. "Isabella?" I repeated, confused. "That's her name." No one answered me. They just moved with that terrifying calm that means someone important is involved. Then I saw him. The man from the middle SUV didn't rush. He walked. Even the rain seemed to hesitate when he stepped forward. Sharp jaw, silver at the temples, eyes that carried too much calculation for a stranger. His coat was black, but it reflected gold every time lightning flashed. He stopped 2 feet from me and crouched, ignoring the mud. His gaze flicked from the girl in my arms to my scraped hands. "You pulled her out?" "Yeah. She was screaming. The car was—" "I know." His tone was quiet, final, like a confession. He reached out, touched the child's cheek with a trembling thumb. "Isabella," he murmured, softer than I expected. "You're safe." He looked up at me again. "Your name?" "Lisa." My voice cracked. "Lisa Perez." He studied me for a long moment. Then his attention shifted behind me, toward the bridge, where Mara was standing in the rain clutching our threadbare blanket, her eyes huge. "And the girl?" he asked. "My daughter." His jaw tightened, but not in anger, more like realization. He turned to one of his men. "Get them both in the car. They're freezing." "Wait," I said, stepping back. "We're fine. The paramedics—" "There are no paramedics," he cut in. "They were never called." I stared at him. "What? Why not?" "Because," he said, eyes narrowing as if weighing every word, "this wasn't an accident." Behind him, the flames devoured what was left of the sedan. The smell of gasoline clung to my skin. "I don't understand," I whispered. "You don't have to," he replied. Then he gave an order in Italian I didn't know. 2 men moved toward me, not threatening, protective almost, but their presence stole the option of saying no. Mara ran to me, shivering, pressing herself against my leg. "Mommy, are we in trouble?" I wanted to say no. I wanted to promise safety like I used to promise dinner. But before I could answer, the man stepped closer, lowering his voice so only I could hear. "My name is Lelio Zetticci," he said. "And you just saved my daughter." That name meant nothing to me yet, but it made the others stand straighter. Even the reins seemed to pull back respectfully. He nodded once. "You're coming with us. Both of you." "Why?" "Because whoever did this will think you saw too much." And just like that, the night shifted. I wasn't just a homeless woman under a bridge anymore. I was now someone who'd touched the daughter of a man whose name made grown men whisper. They bundled Isabella into one SUV, Mara and me into another. The seat leather stuck to my soaked clothes. Through the tinted window, I watched the bridge disappear behind us, the only home we had left swallowed by smoke and rain. Mara leaned against me, half asleep, murmuring, "The little girl okay?" "She will be," I said, even though I wasn't sure about any of us. Lelio sat across from me in the dim interior, silent, fingers steepled beneath his chin. The lights from passing cars slid across his face like flashes of judgment. After a while, he spoke without looking up. "You risked your life for someone you didn't know. Wouldn't you?" I asked. He met my eyes for the first time. "No," he said honestly. Then, after a beat, "But maybe I should have." No one said anything else until the car turned off the highway and climbed toward the city lights, toward the place where my story would no longer belong to me alone. I didn't realize it then, but the fire that night wasn't the first to change my life. Years earlier, another blaze had taken everything: the man I loved, the house we built, the future we planned. And somehow, without knowing it, I had just saved the daughter of the man tied to that same fire. Subscribe if you haven't already, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from, because tomorrow's story unfolds darker, deeper, and far more dangerous than you think. Now, let's begin the tale. The first thing I heard when I woke up was rain, not outside, but in my head. That kind of heavy, echoing rhythm that lives between your temples after shock. Hospital lights buzzed overhead, too white, too clean. I tried to move, but pain fired through my shoulder like a warning. A nurse was checking an IV line beside me. She smiled, soft but nervous. "You're safe now, Miss Perez." Safe. That word has never aged well for me. "Where's my daughter?" I croaked. "Your little girl?" "She's fine. She's in pediatrics, sleeping." "You were lucky." Lucky. That one hasn't aged well either. Before I could ask more, the door opened, and he walked in. The man from the bridge, black suit, reins still clinging to his shoulders like it hadn't dared dry off yet. Lelio Zetticci. Even in a hospital full of people trying not to die, he looked like the most dangerous thing in the room. No guards this time, just him, and the kind of silence that follows a loaded gun. He didn't sit. He didn't smile. He just stood at the foot of my bed, hands in his coat pockets, eyes locked on me like he was reading something written across my face. "You saved my daughter." His voice was deep, measured, like a judge reading a sentence. "I guess I did," I said quietly. "How is she?" "She'll live." "Good." He nodded once, short, efficient, and reached into his coat. For a second, my heart jumped. Then he set something on the bed tray between us. A checkbook. "I don't want your money," I said immediately. "I didn't ask what you wanted." I stared at him, heat rising in my chest. "Then what are you doing here?" He studied me a moment before answering. "I'm trying to understand you. People don't run into burning cars for strangers." "I didn't do it for you," I said. "I did it because a child was screaming." For the first time, something flickered in his expression. Confusion, maybe admiration, maybe both. "Most people," he said slowly, "hear screams and walk the other way." "Then maybe you've been around the wrong people," I replied. The corner of his mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, more like surprise that I dared to speak to him that way. He took the checkbook back and tucked it away. "You're bleeding through your bandage. I'm fine." "You're not," he said, his gaze dropping to the bruises on my wrist. "But I suppose you've learned how to say that." That sentence stuck to me longer than it should have. He looked away first, toward the window where the rain blurred the world into silver streaks. "You'll stay here for the night. My men will handle your paperwork." "My paperwork?" "Discharge forms, insurance, identification." "I don't have insurance." "You do now." I blinked. "I didn't ask for your help. And yet," he said, turning back toward me, "you have it." Before I could argue, the nurse returned, and suddenly went pale. "Mr. Zetticci, sir, I didn't realize—" He cut her off with a glance. "Bring her daughter here." She nodded quickly and left. I waited until she was gone. "You're used to giving orders. I'm used to being obeyed. Sounds lonely." He looked at me again, this time longer. "It is." 15 minutes later, Mara ran into the room, barefoot, hospital gown too big for her tiny frame. "Mommy!" She jumped into my arms, and the IV tugged painfully, but I didn't care. She was warm, alive, whole. Lelio watched quietly from the corner, his posture relaxed but eyes sharp, like he was measuring the weight of love he could never afford. Mara noticed him and froze, clutching me tighter. "It's okay, baby," I whispered. "This is Mr. Zetticci. He helped us." Mara looked at him suspiciously, the way children do when they can feel something powerful but don't have a word for it. "Thank you," she mumbled, then hid her face in my neck. He nodded once, softer than before. "You're very brave," he said to her, though she couldn't see it. After she fell asleep on my lap, he stepped closer. "You have nowhere to go, do you?" I opened my mouth to lie, But he stopped me. Don't. I already know. My men searched the shelters. My jaw tightened. You had no right. I have every right when someone tries to kill my child. That made me look up. You think it was on purpose? It was a message, he said simply. One meant for me. But you were there. You pulled her out. That makes you part of it now. Part of what? My world. There it was. The sentence that changed everything. The line between charity and captivity. I don't want any part of your world, I said. You don't get to choose, he replied. The way he said it, not cruelly, not threateningly, was somehow worse, like fate itself had already decided. I'll have my driver take you and your daughter somewhere safe, he continued. One of my properties. You'll have food, clothes, protection. No one will touch you. No, I said firmly. We'll go back to the shelter. Shelter? He almost laughed. They already raided it. What? Half an hour after I took you out of there. I stared at him, my throat going dry. Who did? The same people who sent that car. He moved closer, lowering his voice until I could feel it in my bones. You saved Isabella. That makes you valuable. To me and to them. You stay where I can see you, or you die where they can find you. I wanted to tell him he was wrong, that he couldn't just decide my life like this. But then Mara stirred against my arm, murmuring in her sleep. And I realized I couldn't afford pride anymore. He saw it in my eyes, that moment of surrender, or maybe understanding. He stepped back, voice softening. You'll have a room for tonight. My car will be waiting at dawn. I'm not your problem. He looked toward Mara. You were never mine. But she is now. Before I could react, he turned and left. The room felt smaller the second he was gone. That night, after Mara drifted back to sleep, I sat awake listening to the rain on the window pane. Somewhere down the hall, a guard's shoes clicked in steady rhythm. Not hospital staff, not police. His men. I stared at my bandaged hands, the same hands that had pulled his daughter from a fire, and wondered what I'd really grabbed onto that night. Salvation, or a chain made of gratitude. Around midnight, the nurse returned quietly to check on Mara. I asked her if she knew who he really was. Her face tightened. People don't say his name here, she whispered. Not out loud. Why not? Because when Mr. Zetticci visits, people either leave richer or they don't leave at all. She looked toward the door like she expected him to appear just for being mentioned. Then she smiled nervously. Get some rest, Miss Perez. Tomorrow's a big day. When dawn came, the rain had finally stopped. The first mercy I'd seen in weeks. 2 black cars waited outside the hospital entrance. One for him, one for me. Lelio was standing by the first, coat collar up, sunlight catching the edge of his wristwatch. He looked at me, then at Mara, who was holding my hand and clutching a small stuffed bear someone must have left on her bed. You're early, I said. I don't sleep well, he replied, especially when someone owes me a debt. I didn't do it for payment. I know. That's what makes it harder to repay. He opened the door for us himself. No driver, no gesture. Just quiet insistence. Get in. I hesitated, glancing at Mara, then back at him. If I say no, he gave a faint, unreadable smile. Then I'll have to follow you anyway, and I'm not a man who likes chasing people twice. I sighed, tightening my grip on my daughter's hand. Where are we going? He looked toward the horizon, where the city met the sea. Home. The way he said it made the word sound like both a threat and a promise. So I got in. The gates opened like jaws. Tall, black, iron, each bar thick enough to keep in secrets, not just people. The car rolled forward on a gravel drive that sparkled under the early sun, and every pebble sounded like a warning. Mara pressed her face to the window. "Mommy, is this a hotel?" "No," I said quietly. "This is someone's house." A pause. "Then why is it so big?" "Because some people don't know how to live small." She giggled, and I almost smiled. The mansion rose ahead, 3 stories of pale stone, balconies curved like open palms, windows tall enough to shame cathedrals. It didn't look lived in. It looked guarded, a place built to keep the world out and guilt in. When the car stopped, Lelio stepped out first. The staff appeared from nowhere, lined up silent, eyes lowered. No one spoke. Even the sea breeze seemed careful. He opened my door. "Welcome, Lisa." I hesitated before taking his hand. His palm was warm, calloused, not the softness you'd expect from a man who could buy cities. He helped Mara out next, his expression softening by a fraction. "There's food inside," he said. "Clothes. Whatever you need. I just need to know when we can leave." He didn't answer. Instead, he started walking toward the entrance. "Inside first." The foyer smelled of polish and something faintly floral, too elegant for comfort. The marble floor mirrored us upside down. Chandeliers hung like frozen fireworks. Every step echoed longer than it should have. Mara ran a few feet ahead, her sneakers squeaking. Her laughter bounced off the walls until Lelio turned his head, and even she quieted, like the house demanded respect. A woman in her 50s approached, gray hair in a tight bun, black dress pressed to perfection. "Mr. Zetticci," she said, voice soft with old loyalty. "This is Rosa," he told me. "She keeps order here." Rosa's eyes met mine. There was pity there, buried under discipline. "Follow me, Signora. We prepared a room for you and the child." As she led us up the wide staircase, Mara whispered, "Do you think there's a TV?" "Maybe," I said, "but don't touch anything unless it asks first." Our room was larger than the shelter we'd lived in for months. A canopy bed, heavy drapes, a balcony facing the garden. On the dresser, a bowl of fruit and a small teddy bear wrapped in ribbon. Mara gasped and hugged it instantly. "Mommy, they knew!" "Knew what?" "That I needed a new friend." I turned toward Rosa, who stood by the door. "This is too much." Mr. Zetticci insisted. "He shouldn't have." Rosa tilted her head. "He rarely gives anyone what they should have. Only what he thinks they need." Then she left, closing the door with a sound that somehow made the room quieter. I found a phone on the nightstand. No signal. Figures. Mara was already curled on the bed, eating grapes like a princess in exile. I sat beside her and stared out at the garden below. Security men patrolled in tidy loops. Beyond them, the sea glittered, pretending to be peaceful. That's when I saw him. Lelio stood by the fountain, coat off, sleeves rolled up, phone pressed to his ear. Even from up here, his posture radiated control. But when he hung up, his shoulders sagged for just a second, as if command was a costume that didn't fit anymore. He looked toward the balcony, straight at me. For a heartbeat, our eyes locked. Neither of us moved. Then he turned away. Dinner was served at 7. A long table that could seat 20 but held only 3, Lelio at the head, me on the left, Mara beside me. Isabella sat on his right, wrapped in a soft cast, pale but smiling. The moment she saw me, she lit up. "You came." Her small voice filled the empty hall. Lelio glanced at her, something gentle flickering in his gaze. Mara waved shyly. "Hi, I'm Mara." "I know," Isabella said. "My daddy told me. You saved me too." Mara blinked. "No, Mommy did." "Then your mommy's a hero." Lelio's fork paused midair. Yes, he said quietly. She is. No one spoke after that. Only the sound of silver against porcelain, the whisper of waves outside. After dessert, Isabella yawned and Rosa appeared to take her upstairs. Lelio waited until the doors closed. You don't like this house, he said. It feels like a museum, I answered. Beautiful, cold, full of ghosts. He smirked faintly. Accurate. He poured himself a glass of red wine, then another, offering it across the table. I hesitated. I don't drink. Neither do I, he said, setting it down untouched. But sometimes it helps to hold something. I folded my hands. Why bring us here, Lelio? Really? His eyes darkened. Because you're already in danger. The DeMarco family doesn't forgive. Humiliation. They tried to kill me. You got in the way. So I'm a witness? You're a message. That sent a chill down my spine. To who? To me, he said simply. That I can still bleed through the people I care about. I'm not one of those people. Not yet, he replied. The silence after that felt heavier than words. Later, I wandered the hallway outside our room, too restless to sleep. The portraits lining the walls stared back, Zetticci's through the ages, all with the same eyes, calculating, unrepentant. A faint light spilled from an office door slightly ajar. Curiosity won. Inside, Lelio sat behind a massive desk, cigarette smoldering in an ashtray. He wasn't working, just staring at a framed photo of a woman holding a baby. His wife, I guessed. Isabella's mother. I knocked softly. He didn't flinch. You can't sleep either. No. He gestured to the seat across from him. The house gets louder when it's quiet. You'll get used to it. I don't think I want to. He smiled without humor. No one ever does. I looked at the photo. She was beautiful. She was fire, he said. And like all fire, she left ashes. I'm sorry. He glanced up, eyes glassy but sharp again in a blink. Don't be. Everyone in my world dies young. I just didn't expect her to die innocent. I didn't know what to say. He looked human for the first time since I met him, broken even beneath all that power. You have a daughter who still needs you, I said softly. That's what matters. He leaned back, studying me. You talk like someone who's already lost everything. I have, I admitted, but it taught me what's still worth saving. Something in his expression shifted. Less armor, more man. Good night, Lisa, he said finally. You and your daughter are safe here. For how long? Until I find the men who made us all bleed. As I stood to leave, he added quietly, You ran into a burning car for a stranger. Don't do it again. Why not? Because next time, he said, eyes narrowing, I might not be there to pull you out. Back in my room, I lay awake listening to the mansion breathe. Distant footsteps, wind against glass, the faint crackle of the sea beyond the cliffs. Mara slept soundly, clutching her new bear. I watched the moonlight crawl across the floor and thought about what he said. The man terrified me, but what scared me more was the way part of me wanted to believe him. Maybe I was tired of being invisible. Maybe danger at least looked you in the eye. Whatever it was, I knew one thing. The house might have feared silence, but I feared what it would whisper if I ever stopped listening. I thought safety would sound like silence. But in Lelio Zetticci's world, silence had weight. It pressed against the walls until you could hear your own heartbeat, reminding you didn't belong. Days passed. An uneasy rhythm. Breakfast served by people who never met my eyes, a garden too perfect to touch, and guards who treated air like a weapon. Mara adjusted quickly. Kids always do. She played with Isabella in the courtyard, two little girls giggling between rose bushes while men with guns pretended not to watch. I'd sit by the fountain with a book I couldn't concentrate on, pretending not to feel eyes on me. Sometimes, when Lelio wasn't in meetings, he'd join us. He never smiled fully, but his presence quieted the chaos somehow. The staff obeyed faster, the guards stood straighter. The man was gravity, and we were all just orbiting him. But the peace was fragile. It cracked the morning I heard my name whispered in a place it shouldn't have been. Rosa was in the hallway, giving orders to a maid. I was passing by when I heard her say softly, "Make sure the files go back to Lelio's office, the ones about the Perez accident." I froze. Accident. My name. The world blurred. I stepped into the hallway. "What did you just say?" Rosa turned, startled. "Nothing you need to worry about, Signora. I heard my name." She hesitated, then sighed. "It's nothing. Old reports. From the company your husband worked for." I felt my throat tighten. "Zetticci Logistics?" Rosa didn't answer, which was answer enough. I left before she could stop me. The office door was locked, but desperation makes you resourceful. The window on the ground floor was slightly open. Guards didn't expect the homeless woman to turn into a thief. I slipped through, heart pounding. The desk was spotless except for a single folder marked with my husband's name, Miguel Perez. I opened it. Photos, burned papers, insurance documents, and a report stamped with Lelio's company seal. Date, July 14th. The night Miguel died. Description: containment failure during warehouse transport operation. Asset loss, high. Casualties, 2 confirmed. Ordered by Lelio Zetticci. My stomach dropped. I read it again, hoping I was wrong. But the signature was unmistakable. I staggered back, bile rising in my throat. The man whose daughter I saved, the man feeding my child, protecting us, had destroyed my life years before I ever knew his name. I didn't hear him come in. "Looking for ghosts, Lisa?" I spun. Lelio stood in the doorway, hands in his pockets, face unreadable. "I found one," I said, holding up the file. "Yours." He closed the door behind him with quiet precision. "You shouldn't be here." "Then maybe you shouldn't keep people's lives in folders." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then he walked closer, slow, deliberate. "That was a long time ago. Not for me." He sighed. Not guilty, just tired. "You think I wanted that fire?" "You ordered it," I snapped. "Your signature is right there." "It was a shipment, Lisa. Routine. Someone cut corners, used cheap fuel containers. When it went up, I lost men too." "Men," I repeated bitterly. "Not a husband. Not the father of a little girl." His jaw clenched. "You think I sleep easily knowing I built an empire on accidents like that? You think I forget names like Perez?" "Yes," I said. "I think that's exactly what you do." The silence that followed was sharp enough to bleed on. Finally, he said, "You and Mara will leave tonight. I'll send money, enough to disappear. And if I refuse, then you'll stay here hating me. I can live with that." He turned to go, but I caught his sleeve. "Why didn't you tell me?" His answer came without hesitation. "Because I wanted to see if you'd still look at me the same way once you knew." I let go. "Now you know." He nodded once. "Now I know." Then he left me standing among papers that used to be my past, and now were his confession. That night I packed. Mara didn't understand. "Why are we leaving?" "Isabella said we could stay forever." "Because forever isn't real, sweetheart," she pouted. "Did we do something bad?" "No," I said, zipping the bag. "We just remembered who we are." A knock came at the door. It wasn't Lelio. It was Rosa. Her face was pale. "You can't go," she whispered. I can't stay. She shook her head. You don't understand. There's movement outside. Men from the DeMarco side. They've been seen near the cliffs. My pulse quickened. Does Lelio know? He's already gone after them. Alone. Alone? I echoed. Why would he? Rosa gripped my arm. Because he thinks they came for you. The garden lights were off when I ran outside. Wind clawed at my hair. The guards were scattered, shouts in Italian cutting through the dark. I followed the sound until I saw flashes of gunfire near the outer wall. Lelio was there, moving through the chaos like it belonged to him, calm, lethal. He took down one man, then another. The third aimed at his back. Lelio! I screamed before I could think. He turned just as the shot went off. The bullet grazed his arm, tearing through fabric. He fired back, dropping the gunman instantly. Then he looked at me. Anger, relief, something else all tangled up in his face. I told you to stay inside, he growled. And I told you I'm done obeying you. For a moment, in the flashing chaos, we just stared at each other, two people bound by the same fire in different lifetimes. Then the last DeMarco fell, and the world went quiet again. Later, when it was over, he sat on the steps of the fountain, bleeding through a makeshift bandage. I approached, trembling. You should let Rosa treat that, I said. She tried. I told her no. Why? He looked up at me. Because pain reminds me I'm still paying. I sat beside him. The air smelled of smoke and salt. You didn't have to protect me. Yes, he said. I did. Why? He met my eyes. Because I killed one family by mistake. I won't lose another by choice. Something in his voice broke then. Not loudly, just a small crack where truth slipped through. I wanted to hate him. I wanted to scream every word of blame in my chest. But all I managed was, I wish I'd never met you. He nodded slowly. And yet here we are. He stood, rain starting again, faint but steady. Go inside, Lisa. Take your daughter. Tomorrow I'll make arrangements for you both. When he walked away, I realized something terrifying. The man I should despise was the only one who'd ever bled for me. And that kind of truth doesn't stay buried either. Rosa didn't knock anymore. She ghosted in at dawn with tea and a look that could iron a shirt from 10 feet away. Eat, she said. You think better when you're full. I think better when people stop lying to me, I muttered. She set the tray down and, for once, smiled like a human being. That too. Mara snored softly, tangled around her new bear. I followed Rosa to the balcony. The sea was a dull sheet of tin, the sky bruised with weather that hadn't decided if it would break. Tell me something true, I said. Just one thing. Rosa considered, then nodded at the garden path where 2 guards traced the same figure 8 they always did. Truth. Patterns keep men alive, until someone learns your pattern. The DeMarcos? Or worse, she said. Someone inside who knows which door is unlocked. I glanced back at Mara and felt the familiar mix of fear and fury fizz in my chest. If there's a leak, Lelio must know. Lelio knows everything, she said, but not always in time to matter. We were quiet until Mara stirred. Rosa leaned on the railing. You should be careful with Enzo. Enzo? Lelio's consigliere. He smiles like a priest. He prays like a businessman. You think he's the leak? I think wolves don't apologize for their teeth. She straightened. Watch your phone. I don't have a... The nightstand buzzed. A black device I'd never seen lit up with a single message. Delivery at the East Gate, 10:30. No sender. Rosa didn't move. Patterns, she repeated, and left me alone with the phone in the sea and a time that was getting closer. At 10:25, I was accidentally walking Mara past the east gate on our way to feed fish at the fountain. 2 men in work coveralls waited by a van with the logo of a linen service I'd never seen on the property before. One scratched his nose twice. A signal? The other checked his watch and the gate camera at the same time. New, wrong, rehearsed. "Mommy, can I throw 3 scoops this time?" Mara asked, bouncing. 3, I said. Exactly. As she ran ahead, the gate released with a soft click and Rosa's words echoed, "Someone inside who knows which door is unlocked." The men wheeled a bin through. The lid wasn't snapped. Inside, sheets, bleach, and under them, the matte edge of a rifle case. I didn't mean to do it, but I did it anyway. Stepped right into their path and tripped, catching the bin. The lid flew back. The top sheet shifted. Metal winked. "Careful," I said sweetly. "Wouldn't want to drop anything." Both men blinked. One smiled a fraction too late. "Thank you, Senora." I let go and watched them wheel death toward a house where my child and someone else's were playing with crayons. Enzo stepped out of a side door just then. Perfect timing, perfectly wrong. He saw me, saw the bin, saw the men, then smiled like none of us had secrets. "Lisa," he said, "you're pale. Fresh air not agreeing with you?" "Depends what's in it," I said. He gave a small bow. "We breathe what we're given." He followed the cart inside. I didn't feed the fish. I walked Mara back to our room with my heart pounding so loud that even the floor seemed to listen. Lelio was in the library, hands braced on the back of a chair, sleeves rolled up, that watch that could pay our lives off twice catching the light. When he looked at me, his eyes did what they always did. Quick scan for blood, for fear, for bad news. "East gate," I said. "Linen van, 2 men, a rifle case under the sheets." Enzo walked them in. He moved before I finished the last word. 2 strides to the desk, a bunch of buttons on a black console, then orders in a calm voice that made other voices shake. "Shut the east wing. No one in, no one out. Rosa, lock the girls' corridor. Bianchi, with me." He was past me in a heartbeat. I grabbed his forearm. "You said we were safe." "We were," he said, and for the first time since I'd met him, I heard something like shame. Until someone learned our pattern. "Enzo," "I know," he said, jaw like stone. "Stay with Rosa. Don't move. If I'm not back in 10 minutes. "You'll be back," I said, surprising both of us. He left. The house inhaled. Gunfire didn't follow. Better and worse. The quiet was surgical, the kind that precedes a scalpel finding exactly what it came for. Rosa appeared with 2 guards and ushered us into a small, secure salon I hadn't seen before. No windows, just velvet, books, and a safe the size of a grave. Isabella ran to Mara, eyes bright. "Hide and seek?" "Sort of," I said. "Stay together." Rosa took my hand and squeezed once. Her fingers were cold. "He will not let the enemy touch his house," she said. "But the enemy sometimes lives in the kitchen." 10 minutes stretched into 15. Then the door opened and Lelio stepped in, clean, composed, one small tear in his sleeve that hadn't been there before. "It's done," he said. "What's done?" I asked. "The delivery men won't make another delivery. And Enzo." He stopped, then looked at me as if weighing whether I could carry one more stone. "Enzo is suspended, from breathing my air until I decide if he deserves it." He gestured to Bianchi. "Cellar." Rosa exhaled. Isabella clapped once, not understanding. Mara mirrored her. "Children always copy relief. When the girls were taken upstairs, I faced him." "You didn't look surprised." "I wasn't," he said. "How long?" "Long enough to trap him," he replied. "Not long enough to forgive myself." "And me?" I asked. Am I part of the trap too? His gaze flicked to my hands. Not today. Then when? The anger arrived with everything else I'd been holding back since the warehouse file. When did you plan to tell me you knew there was a leak? Before or after my daughter learned what a funeral looks like? Don't, he warned, soft. No, you don't, I said, stepping forward. You say the right words, you make the right moves, but you didn't tell me. You didn't trust me. You handled me. He didn't move. His voice dropped. I've been handling monsters my whole life, Lisa. Forgive me if I don't know the grip for something I don't want to break. Something in me faltered, then stiffened again. You can't have it both ways. You can't put me in a fortress and keep me in the dark. His jaw worked. You're right. Silence again. Heavy, familiar. Then my borrowed phone vibrated, the one from the nightstand. Unknown number. I answered because I was tired of pretending not to. A voice came through a scrambler, flattened and cold. You think you're safe in his house? Who is this? Someone who watched a man burn in a warehouse while Zetticci counted money, the voice said. You want truth? Ask him who signed the fuel purchase that night. I already know, I said. He did. A pause. Then ask him who supplied the fuel. Why? Because the supplier also runs the DeMarco guns, the voice murmured, and because the signature on that invoice isn't a Zetticci. The line clicked dead. I stared at Lelio, my pulse everywhere at once. Who supplied the fuel for the shipment the night Miguel died? Don't, he said again, and this time there was plea in it. Who? He looked away. Enzo handled procurement that quarter. My mouth went dry. So, the consigliere who walked guns through your gate today also fed the fire that killed my husband years ago. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. I felt the decision arrive. Not clean, not noble, just necessary. I grabbed Mara's backpack from the sofa, started stuffing it with whatever we had left of a life. Lelio moved, blocking the door without raising his voice. You can't leave now. I can't stay another minute, I said. Every truth in this house comes with a body count. Lisa, he said, stepping closer. Let me finish this. I will give you names, proof, anything you ask. But don't run blind into a street that's already lined with rifles. Shook my head. You don't get to be my cage and my map. Rosa appeared in the doorway, eyes wide, pleading with me and him at once. If she goes now, I know, he said. We stared at each other across a space that had been growing between us from the night we met. Then he nodded once to Bianchi. Take 2 men. Shadow her. No engagement unless she's taken. I won't be taken, I said, trying to swallow the fear that came with the words. You're the strongest person I know, Lelio said. It doesn't make you bulletproof. I pushed past, and for the first time since the bridge, he let me. The city didn't look smaller from the back of a taxi. It looked honest. It smelled like brine and exhaust and hustling. I pulled Mara close on the cracked vinyl and texted Rosa from the silent phone. Shelter on Harbor and 19th. We'll lay low. She replied with a single dot. I hoped it meant watching. We got out 3 blocks early. Too quiet. Too fast. Patterns again. Mara pointed. Mommy, birds. Crows, I said, and wished I hadn't because it felt like foreshadowing. We were 1 block from the shelter when the van pulled up, white, unmarked, sliding door already open. 2 men inside, linen service logo painted too clean on the panel. Wrong house, I said, turning. A second van cut us off. Mara's hand slid out of mine. Rough palms grabbed my arms. A cloth came up that smelled like hospitals and endings. Mommy! Mara screamed, shrill and tearing. Don't hurt her! I fought like something rabid. "Take me, not—" A voice near my ear hissed, "We already did the math." Dark folded over me. The last thing I heard was Mara's name yelled by someone far away, and a single word I'd never heard Lelio say before, raw and uncomposed. "Please." The smell hit first. Oil, rust, old incense, then pain, sharp behind my eyes, like a light too bright to look at. I woke tied to a chair, wrists burning, head pounding. The floor beneath me was stone, damp, echoing with faraway voices. A man laughed. "The sleeping beauty wakes." I tried to move. Ropes bit into my skin. "Where's my daughter?" "Safe," someone said. "For now." My vision steadied. I was in what looked like a church, abandoned, desecrated. Candles burned on a cracked altar. Statues of saints leaned in the corners like witnesses too tired to care. The man standing before me wore a dark coat, his sleeves rolled to the elbow, tattoos curling up his arms. "You're DeMarco," I said. He smiled without warmth. "Finally, someone in this city remembers a name that matters. Where's Mara?" He squatted in front of me. "She's with friends. Children shouldn't see what comes next." "I swear, if you touch her—" "You're not in a position to swear, sweetheart." He stood pacing. "You did something impressive. You saved Zetticci's little princess. You made headlines in all the places that matter." I glared. "You want him, not me." "True, but he'll come for you. He always comes for what he thinks he owns." His grin widened. "That's why you're alive." He turned to one of his men. "Send the message." Somewhere across the city, Lelio's phone must have buzzed. He'd see the photo, me tied to a chair, bruised but breathing. A note at the bottom. "Bring the girl. Bring yourself. Or she burns like the last one." Hours passed. The church grew colder. I tested the ropes until my wrists went raw. Every sound outside made me flinch. A young guard, nervous, kept glancing my way. I softened my voice. "Do you have a daughter?" He blinked. "A son." "What's his name?" He hesitated. "Marco." "Then you know what this feels like. The waiting. The not knowing." I looked at him steadily. "Don't let my little girl feel that." He swallowed, eyes darting to the door. "You shouldn't talk. I shouldn't be here." For a heartbeat, I thought he'd look away and leave. Instead, he whispered, "There's a side door near the confessional. When it starts, run." Before I could answer, the world outside exploded. Gunfire shattered the stained glass. Red and blue light strobed through the broken windows, flashes of police sirens blending with muzzle bursts. The sound was deafening. Chaos made music. The young guard ducked, shouting, "He's here!" Then the main doors blew inward. Smoke rolled in first, then shadows. Men in black, moving like storm clouds. Lelio at their center. No suit, no armor of charm this time, just fury wrapped in black wool. He moved through the bullets like he'd rehearsed it. Clean, merciless, inevitable. The DeMarcos fired wildly. Lelio's men answered in rhythm. I screamed as one fell near me, blood splattering the altar. The young guard cut my ropes with shaking hands. "Go!" he shouted. "Not without her!" I grabbed his wrist. "The child! Where is she?" "She's in the van." Outside, metal shrieked. A crash, then another explosion. Fire bloomed through the doorway. "Lisa!" His voice, deep, ragged. "Lelio." I turned, and there he was, blood on his sleeve, eyes finding me through the smoke. He crossed the space between us as if the chaos didn't exist, grabbed my arm, pulled me behind him. "Stay low." "You're bleeding," I gasped. He didn't answer. He kicked open a side door, dragging me into the corridor. "She's in the van. I heard—" "I know." His jaw clenched. "They're moving her. Back exit." We ran through a tunnel of peeling murals and echoes of gunfire. Outside, the air was wet with rain and smoke. Flames licked the church's roof, painting the night orange. At the edge of the parking lot, I saw the van. Doors open, engine running. A figure inside, small, crying, "Mara!" She turned, sobbing, arms out. I sprinted forward just as a DeMarco soldier stepped into view, raising his gun. The shot came, first, not his. Lelio's. The man dropped, lifeless. Then another shot rang out. Lelio grunted, stumbling, his hand pressed to his side. I caught him before he hit the ground. No, stay with me." He smiled faintly, teeth red. "You saved my daughter once," he rasped. "Now save me." I pressed both hands against the wound, tears mixing with rain and blood. "Don't you dare close your eyes." He laughed weakly. "You sound like me." Sirens screamed closer. Lelio's men formed a wall around us, shouting orders I couldn't hear. Mara's small hands touched my shoulder. "Mommy, he's hurt." "I know, baby. Keep back." He looked at her, really looked, and something broke open in his expression, something raw and human. "She looks like her father." I blinked through tears. "Then maybe you'll understand why I can't lose again." His fingers brushed my cheek, trembling. "You won't." Then his eyes rolled back, body going limp in my arms. "Lelio!" I pressed harder, my palms slick with red. "You're not dying here, not after everything." Bianchi appeared, shouting for medics. The sound faded under the rain. Later, I sat in the back of an armored car, Mara asleep against my chest. Outside, the church was just a silhouette of flame against dawn. Rosa appeared beside the door. "He's alive," she said softly. "Barely." I exhaled, shaking. "I thought—" "He's stubborn," she said. "It's how he keeps breathing." "Where are they taking him?" "Villa Infirmary. He won't stay down long." I looked out at the fire. "He shouldn't have come for me." Rosa's gaze softened. "You still don't understand, do you? He didn't come for you. He came for redemption." She started to close the door, then added, "And maybe, for love." I watched the smoke curl into the sky until it disappeared. The rain hadn't stopped, but for the first time since that night under the bridge, it didn't feel cold. I pulled Mara closer, whispering, "It's over." But somewhere deep down, I knew it wasn't. Not yet. The villa had never felt so still. Even the ocean beyond the cliff seemed to hold its breath. The guards spoke in whispers. Rosa moved like a shadow, carrying bandages and orders between rooms. Lelio lay in the private infirmary, a wide white space that smelled of antiseptic and something heavier. Guilt, maybe. His skin looked pale against the linen sheets, the bandage at his side blooming faint red through the gauze. I stood in the doorway for a long time, afraid to move closer. He was a storm I'd been pulled into from the start. Now, with him silent, the calm scared me more than the chaos ever did. Mara slept upstairs with Isabella, their laughter earlier a fragile thread holding the house together. I envied their ability to forget. For now. Rosa appeared beside me holding a glass of water. "He asked for you." "When?" "Every time he wakes." "Up!" I stepped inside. His eyes fluttered open, bloodshot but sharp as ever. "Still here," he rasped. "Against my better judgment," I said softly, sitting down beside him. He managed a weak smirk. "That's becoming a habit of yours. You should be resting." "I can rest when I stop seeing fire every time I blink." I didn't answer. He turned his head toward the window, where the first rays of dawn painted the horizon gold. "You shouldn't have come for me," I said finally. "You could have died." I told you once, he murmured. Some debts can't be paid in money. I wanted to believe him, but belief and forgiveness weren't the same thing. That night, Rosa found me on the balcony, staring at the sea. You're thinking too loud again, she said. I keep wondering if he saved me because he cares, or because he can't stand to lose what he thinks he owns. Rosa folded her arms. You can't separate a man like him from what he owns. Power becomes a language. Sometimes love sounds the same. Then maybe I'm tired of both. She didn't argue, just looked at me like she'd seen the same war play out before. He asked for you again. Rosa, go, she said gently, or you'll regret not hearing what he's finally ready to say. The room was dim when I entered, lit only by a single bedside lamp. Lelio was awake, staring at a file in his hands. The same kind of file I once stole from him. He didn't look up. You were right to hate me. The words hit harder than any gunfire. He opened the folder, revealing a document stamped with Zetticci logistics. I kept this because it's the truth that built my empire, and the one that rotted it. I stayed silent. He continued, voice hoarse. The night your husband died. The fire wasn't an accident. I ordered the transport. Enzo handled procurement. He bought cheap fuel from a DeMarco supplier to save money. I signed off without checking. My throat tightened. So you knew. I didn't know who died until months later, he said. When I read the casualty report, your husband's name meant nothing to me. Just another number. I didn't see the cost until you walked into that hospital. I wanted to move, to shout, to hit something, but all I could do was whisper, You killed him. He looked at me then, eyes hollow. Indirectly, yes. And every night since, I've prayed for a punishment I can't afford to pay. I turned away, gripping the bed rail. Why tell me now? Because I'm tired of lying to the only person who's ever looked at me without fear. Silence stretched between us, thick and trembling. I could hear the faint tick of the clock, the crash of distant waves. Finally, I said, You could have told me before you decided to play savior. He nodded. I was afraid you'd walk away. You should have been afraid I wouldn't. His voice broke. I was. I left before he could say another word. Outside, the night was heavy with salt and wind. I walked past the fountain, the marble still stained faintly from that night's blood. The garden smelled of wet roses. Everything here was beautiful and broken, just like him. I found Rosa smoking on the terrace, something I'd never seen her do before. She offered me one wordlessly. I didn't take it. He told you, she said. Yes. And now I don't know who I am anymore, I whispered. She blew out smoke, watching it fade. You're the woman who survived him. That's who you are. I laughed bitterly. And if I stay? Then you're the woman who saved him. Can people like him even be saved? Rosa looked toward the house. That depends on who's asking, his soul or yours. I went back to the room once, hours later. He was asleep again, breathing shallow but steady. I placed the file on his bedside table. You don't need this anymore, I whispered. It already did its damage. He stirred, but didn't wake. His hand shifted, reaching instinctively for mine in his sleep. I didn't move away. For a moment, I let the warmth of it remind me that monsters don't always look like their sins. Then I slipped out, quiet as the tide. By morning, I'd packed clothes, documents, the little teddy bear from Mara's bed. Rosa caught me at the gate. You're leaving. Yes. Does he know? No, and don't tell him. She nodded slowly. Where will you go? The shelter, Harbor and 19th. We'll start over. Rosa's eyes softened. "He'll come for you." "I hope not," I said. "If he does, it means he hasn't learned anything." I looked back once as the car pulled away. The villa stood against the dawn like a cathedral, silent, magnificent, and haunted. Mara rested her head on my shoulder, half asleep. "Are we safe now?" she murmured. I stroked her hair. "We're free, baby. That's better than safe." Back inside the villa, Lelio woke to an empty chair and an open door. Rosa stood at the threshold. "She's gone," she said. He closed his eyes, exhaling the kind of breath that carries both loss and relief. "Let her be," he said quietly. Then, almost to himself, maybe freedom was what I owed her all along. The shelter smelled like bleach and hope, the kind that fades by nightfall. Lisa hadn't realized how loud silence could be until she returned to it. Every creak of the wooden floor, every child's cry in the distance reminded her of how far she'd run, and how much of her heart she'd left behind in that marble prison by the sea. Mara adjusted quickly. Children always do. She helped fold donated clothes, giggled with the other kids, and drew pictures on scrap paper in the afternoons. Lisa envied her resilience. For a child who'd seen too much, Mara's world still had color. Mine, Lisa thought, has turned into grayscale. Nights were the hardest. The wind off the harbor howled through broken windows, carrying the echoes of a man's voice she swore she'd stopped listening for. "You saved my daughter once. Now save me." She pressed her palms against her eyes, willing sleep to come. It didn't. Not when guilt and memory shared the same bed. Weeks passed before the world decided to twist the knife again. A Sunday morning, gray and heavy. Lisa was helping a volunteer unpack boxes of canned food when a familiar voice behind her said, "You still organize chaos better than anyone I know." Her body froze before her mind caught up. She turned, and there he was, Lelio. No guards, no suit, no blood or shadow trailing behind him this time. Just a man in a plain gray coat, looking like he'd finally remembered what it felt like to be human. Her first instinct was to run. Her second was to breathe. Neither worked. "You shouldn't be here," she said flatly. He nodded. "I shouldn't be anywhere you are, and yet—" She cut him off. "How did you find me?" "I didn't," he said. "Rosa did. She thought you'd want to know Enzo's gone." Lisa blinked. "Gone?" "Trial ended last week. The court called it suicide. I call it closure." She searched his face for arrogance, for that untouchable calm he always wore like armor. There was none. Just exhaustion, the kind that lives behind the eyes. "So what now?" she asked. "You want forgiveness?" He shook his head. "No, I came for honesty." They stepped outside into the small courtyard behind the shelter. Rusted swings creaked in the wind. Mara was sitting on the curb with Isabella, drawing in a notebook. Lisa froze. "Rosa brought her," Lelio said quietly. "She missed you both." Isabella looked up, face lighting like sunrise. "Lisa, look what I made!" She ran over, paper flapping in her small hand. Lisa knelt as the little girl held it up. A drawing, crude but heartfelt. 4 stick figures, a man, a woman, 2 little girls holding hands under a crooked sun. Written beneath in unsteady letters, "My heroes." Lisa's breath hitched. "You drew this?" Isabella nodded proudly. "Daddy helped with the hands. He's not very good at art." Lisa managed a weak smile. "It's beautiful." Behind her, Lelio said softly, "She's better at expressing what I can't." Lisa stood, folding the paper carefully. "You shouldn't have brought her into this. She begged to see you," he said, "and I couldn't say no to her again." For a moment neither spoke. The world shrank to the sound of children's laughter and the slow rhythm of the sea. When the girls ran off to chase a stray balloon, Lelio finally broke the silence. "I stopped the shipments," he said. "The weapons, the ports, all of it. Zetticci Logistics is done." Lisa studied him. "You think that fixes what you've done?" "No," he said simply. "But maybe it stops the same story from being written again." "Why tell me this?" "Because you were the first person to look me in the eye and not flinch." His voice wavered, something rare and unpracticed. "You saw what I was, and still chose to save what you could." She crossed her arms. "I didn't do it for you." "I know. That's why it mattered." The wind picked up, carrying the faint smell of salt and rain. Lelio took a step closer, hesitated. "I came here expecting anger. You're calm." "Calm doesn't mean forgiveness," she said. "It just means I'm tired." He nodded slowly. "I deserve that." Lisa turned toward the sea. "You lost your wife to violence. I lost my husband to your negligence. Maybe we both needed to learn what mercy costs." He exhaled, steady but raw. "And have you?" She looked back at him, eyes glinting. "Not yet." That evening, the rain returned, a quiet drizzle tapping on the shelter's roof. The girls fell asleep early, curled up side by side, Isabella's hand still clutching the drawing. Lisa sat by the window, watching the city lights blink through the mist. Lelio stood beside her, his reflection faint in the glass. "You could have stayed gone," she said. "I tried," he replied. "But every time I closed my eyes, I saw fire, and you walking through it." "Poetic," she said dryly, "but it doesn't erase blood." "No," he agreed. "It just reminds me not to spill more." He took something from his coat pocket, a folded piece of paper. "I had the legal team finalize this." She opened it. "A deed transfer, property on the outskirts of the city, in her name. What is this?" "A house. Small, quiet. For you and Mara. No strings. I don't take gifts from murderers." He met her gaze. "Then take it from a man trying to stop being one." Her fingers trembled slightly as she folded the paper back. "You think redemption can be bought?" He shook his head. "Redemption isn't for sale, but sometimes it needs a place to live." The words lingered in the air, heavy and fragile all at once. They stood there for a long while, the silence not cold this time, just uncertain. Lelio glanced toward the sleeping girls. "When Isabella drew that picture," he said softly, "she asked why she made 2 moms and 2 dads. I told her because families don't always start the same way, but the ones that survive are the ones that forgive." Lisa felt something twist in her chest. "And what if I can't?" "Then I'll spend the rest of my life proving you should." She looked down at the deed in her hand, then at him. "You know what scares me most?" He tilted his head. "That maybe you mean it." He smiled faintly. "Maybe I finally do." When Lelio and Isabella left that night, the air smelled like salt and rain again, the same scent from the night everything began. Lisa locked the door, sat by Mara's bed, and stared at the drawing, still pinned to the wall. 4 figures under a crooked sun. She whispered, "Maybe one day." Outside, lightning flashed once, brief, bright, gone. And for the first time in years, she let herself hope the next morning might not hurt. It rained again the day he came back. The kind of rain that blurred the world into watercolor, soft, endless, forgiving. Lisa stood beneath the awning of the shelter, arms folded, watching puddles ripple across the courtyard. She'd gotten used to routine again, mornings filled with children's laughter, evenings of quiet. the kind of peace that feels borrowed. Inside, Mara was teaching Isabella how to fold paper boats. The sight always made Lisa's heart ache in ways she couldn't explain. They had become sisters without trying, two halves of something broken learning how to float. Rosa had visited a week earlier, bringing groceries and silence. Before leaving, she said only one thing. "He's different now." Lisa hadn't believed her. Men like Lelio Zetticci didn't change, they adapted. But when the black car appeared through the rain that afternoon, her heart still stumbled. He stepped out without an umbrella, letting the rain drench him. No guards, no entourage, just him. Lelio Zetticci, the man who had ruled a city now standing like a man who'd lost everything worth ruling. Lisa stayed where she was. "You'll ruin that coat." He smiled faintly. "It's just a coat." "You always said that about people, too." "Not anymore." The words hit heavier than they should have. He approached slowly, stopping a few feet away. The last time she'd seen him, he'd been all steel and guilt. Now, something had softened. The way his eyes lingered, the quiet in his posture. "I wasn't sure you'd want to see me," he said. "I didn't," she replied, "and yet here you are." "I'm not here for forgiveness," he said. "I came to tell you what I did with the power you said I worshipped." Lisa crossed her arms. "Let me guess. Donated it?" "Buried it," he said simply. "I sold the businesses, every one of them. The money went to the families destroyed by my father's empire, every penny of it." She searched his face for lies. There weren't any. "Why?" "Because I couldn't look at your daughter and still be the man who made you homeless." Rain tapped the roof like slow applause. She looked away, the lump in her throat harder than anger. "And now what? You think that makes us even?" "No," he said. "It makes me start over." The door creaked open behind her. Mara peeked out. "Mommy, Isabella's boat sank again." Lisa smiled. "Then help her make another." "Who's that?" Mara asked, squinting through the rain. Lisa hesitated. "Just someone who needed to get wet." Lelio knelt, rain dripping from his hair, his voice softer than she'd ever heard it. "Hello, Mara." Mara tilted her head. "You're the man from the big house?" "Yes," he said. "The house was too big without you two." She grinned. "We have snacks inside. You can come in if you say sorry." Lisa stifled a laugh. "She doesn't forget conditions." Lelio looked up at her. "Neither do I." Inside, the air was warm and smelled faintly of soup and crayons. Isabella waved the moment she saw him, then ran into his arms. He lifted her gently, holding her like she was the only thing in the world that hadn't disappointed him. Lisa stood by the window, arms crossed. "You shouldn't have brought her into this again." She wanted to see her friend. "Right. You always make it sound like choice when it's control." He set Isabella down. "Then let me choose differently this time." He reached into his coat and pulled out a small velvet box, opened it. Inside, a simple gold ring. No diamonds, no opulence, just sincerity. Lisa's breath caught. "You can't be serious." "I am," he said. "I've given orders that made men die, but you—" He swallowed hard. "You make me want to live right. Marry me. Not because I owe you, but because without you, I'm still empty." She stared at him, unable to look away. The silence between them stretched until the rain outside softened to a hush. "I didn't save your daughter to gain a husband," she said finally. "I know. I saved her because no child deserves to die in the dark." "I know that too." "Then why me?" she asked quietly. "Why, after everything?" "Because you saw what was left of me," he said, and didn't look away. Rosa appeared in the doorway, holding 2 mugs of tea. You could at least let the man finish his confession before you hang him. Lisa turned. You told him where I was. Rosa shrugged. I told him where his heart was. Turns out they were in the same place. Lelio smirked faintly. She's impossible to argue with. Lisa sighed. You all are. He took a cautious step forward. You don't have to answer today, or ever. Just know I'm not here as a boss, or a savior, or a man running from guilt. I'm here as someone who finally understands what love costs. Her eyes softened. And what's that? Everything, he said. But it's a debt I'm ready to pay. Later, when the rain stopped, the children ran outside to float their paper boats on the puddles. Isabella squealed when hers stayed upright. Mara clapped. Rosa watched from the steps, smiling like she'd seen this story too many times, and finally liked the ending. Lelio stood beside Lisa, coat gone, sleeves rolled up, the ring still in his hand. You don't have to say yes, he said quietly. But if you ever do, I'll spend the rest of my life making sure no storm touches you again. Lisa looked at him, the man who'd once destroyed everything she loved and then spent every breath trying to rebuild what couldn't be replaced. He was still dangerous, still flawed, still human. She took a deep breath. I don't want safety, Lelio. He frowned slightly. Then what do you want? She smiled faintly. Peace, and a man who'll keep earning it. He looked down, a quiet laugh escaping him. Then maybe I can try to be that man. She reached for the ring box and closed it gently. Not today, but maybe soon. Soon, he repeated, like a prayer. That evening, as the sky cleared, the girls came running up the steps, drenched and laughing. Mommy, Daddy, look, Mara said, holding a paper boat still floating despite the rain. Lelio blinked. What did she call me? Lisa smiled, wiping water from Mara's cheek. She's still learning where to put names. He crouched beside the little girl, eyes soft. That's all right. Some names take time to fit. Mara hugged him without warning. Lelio froze, then slowly wrapped his arms around her, his jaw trembling. Lisa watched, and for the first time didn't flinch. The moment stretched, quiet and perfect. Outside, the clouds parted. Sunlight spilled across the courtyard, catching the gold in the puddles, the laughter of children, the way his hand brushed hers and didn't let go. Lisa exhaled, not from fear, but relief. So, she said softly, we're staying? Mara grinned. Yes, Mommy. Lisa looked at Lelio. But this time, she said, on our terms. He nodded, voice barely a whisper. Always. The camera of the world pulled back then. 2 families, 1 story reborn under the same fragile light. The sea glimmered beyond the rooftops, and for once, the rain didn't mean sorrow. It meant beginning. If this story moved you, if it made you cry, smile, or believe that second chances can be real, don't leave quietly. Click subscribe, drop A in the comments, and tell me where you're watching from, because stories like this remind us, even the broken can build something beautiful again. And sometimes, love doesn't rescue you softly, it rebuilds you completely.